Hey guys, GhazzyTV here with another sit-down podcast where we invite a friend or a guest. In this case, we have my friend Local invited, and we're just going to have a generic topic. The topic for us is going to be Path of Exile, and just have a coffee talk and see where the conversation leads. There's no structure, there's no specific headliners or any menus, if you will, to go through. We're just going to have a talk.
Excuse me,
And
did you know that I can
I
save
am
you
going to
18
turn off
skill
the sound
points?
notifications. Thanks for ruining that, boys. Appreciate it.
Greg, come on, man.
Perfect unscripted start. Hi, Local. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Ghazzy?
Better, thank you. It's been a little bit of a rough December. But no, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a new year, new me, as they say. Not really sure if I agree with that though. How do you take New Year's resolutions? That's something you care about?
I gave up on it. I feel like setting goals is a really good way to just disappoint yourself. Whenever there's someone who makes like a grand gesture, like this year I'm gonna release 3 videos a week. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. It never happens, man. It never happens. And like, all you can do is just disappoint yourself, right? I guess you can achieve it, but if you set a little private goal and you achieve it, that's great. But yeah, New Year's resolutions, I don't do it.
I don't know. I think New Year's resolutions are kind of like it feels weird because it's like something that is more of a meme, if you will, IRL meme, rather than an actual plan. Then again, I've been having a lot of issues with discipline and structuring. So like I set up myself with so much to do, so I got like 50 fucking balls in the air, and I just need to take one down and finish it because otherwise nothing gets done. I know. I'm guessing you have that approach as well, or a feeling when it comes to having too much to do and then nothing gets done.
Yeah. No, I mean, I kind of, it depends. Like when it comes to work and stuff, if I feel like I have to get something done, like if someone's watching over my shoulder, I'll get it done like always on time. I was the kid in school who we get like a project in the start of the year and they're like, it's due in June. You have to get it done. You got 6 months is a big thing. And I would be like, start working on it that day and then have it done in like a month or something and then just chill. I don't know. It's just, I get, if I know there's something that needs to be done and it's not done, I just stress about it. So I just get it done. So
I'm the opposite, actually. Like, especially when it comes to like school stuff. It was like, if I knew I could handle it, then I would just procrastinate and just postpone it. And then 2 days before the assignment needs to be in, I'll like, okay, let's just fucking, energy drinks, get some snacks. Let's fucking do this. 48-hour session. I'm getting this done. And then I hand it in. It's fine. But as long as you pass it, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess it's kind of related to, I don't know if we're going to touch on this. We have kind of chatted about it in chat, but it's like an anxiety thing, right? Where if I know I have to do this, I have to do this. It's like it's due in 6 months, but my brain is like locked on this thing. And until I've done it, I can't think about anything else. So it's like a weird upside of anxiety and being stressed about something. So I don't know how that works for you. Like if I were to leave it 2 days before, my entire life up to that point would just be like stressing about this one thing. So
but you're referring to this being like connected to your mental situation?
I think it is, but I didn't realize that until later. So it's like a positive upside. There's like a yin and yang with some of this stuff where sometimes it's just like I'm too scared to go outside the house. Not in my case, but you know what I mean? Like sometimes anxiety might be debilitating and sometimes it might actually like motivate you to get some stuff done. So
yeah, like for me, after what we have here in Sweden, we have a gymnasium or a high school, if you will. So when we were like 21, I think it is, we stopped school unless you go to university, and I never did go to university. So it's like, when it comes to the bipolar, we talked about the lead, but briefly, we don't have to go into that in today's podcast. But that's something that normally gets or grows on you or becomes a problem in the later teens or early 20s, right? And that's when I got my shit. And that is what you were talking about. This whole focus thing has been sort of a shift. I guess what I would call it is work ethics. So in my early teens when I worked, I mean, I had no problems calling in sick just to, play some games. Hello. I did that too much, way too much. But then, in the middle teens, when I started streaming, and it's like 9 years ago. I worked part-time and stuff like that. Then work ethics was very different. It's like, if I'm there, I'm just gonna put my back into it and get the shit done, and then I can go home and feel good about it. I don't have to do that again next day because I know it's done. That kind of the focus. I guess that translates pretty well to streaming as well in general.
Yeah. So you've been streaming for 9 years, eh?
Almost 9 years, yes.
Almost.
It's been a while.
Yeah, that's a really long time. So did you start with Path of Exile or WoW or what? What was it?
Oh, it's I actually have well, it's gone now, I think. I had a DMCA strike on my channel as I used a hardcore raid in World of Warcraft, and I decided I wasn't gonna try to stream because I had a rig that could handle it back then. This must have been 10, 11 years ago or something. So I tried that out, and I was just basically having music radio station with me playing, and that's how I got strike. And then years later, I tried out with Diablo 3, and then a friend told me Path of Exile had well, he lured me. He said that minions work well in Path of Exile. You should try it out because I didn't like the minion builds from Diablo 3 back then. Yeah. And one thing led to another, and I got hooked, and here we are, pretty much. But that's I didn't spend much time in Diablo with the stream per se. That was just more of a fun thing to do, just trying it out. But the stream for me in Path of Exile was like, it was just easier to respond to people verbally with questions about my guides, since that's been my entire focus for the last 9 years, just focusing on guides, and answering verbally was just much easier than typing to everyone. So that's how I started. Apparently people liked that enough to make this something I could do full time. So it's been pretty crazy.
Yeah, you just kind of fell into it. There wasn't a big plan or anything like that.
No, it's never really been anything like that. Like, I have this pirate theme that's going on. I love rum. That's how it started. And I just let it affect the stream from there. But you've been streaming for 2 years, right? You said that earlier?
Yeah. September 2020. Yeah, 2020. I also, I don't know, like, I sometimes think, like, what the hell am I doing here, man? Like, I had let's say a bit of an episode. I woke up at 11 o'clock at night, and I couldn't stop thinking about a video idea. And it's something I thought about for ages, like streaming and that, but our internet was trash. Like, we had 1 megabyte upload download up until like 2019.
Jesus.
So I've been following streamers and streaming for so long, and I was always like, maybe I could do that, but I was always like, nah, I'll probably be too boring, right? I don't scream and shout like all those streamers do. And then, like, I don't know how many years later, 2020, I just had an idea for a video. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it tomorrow. I got out of bed, scripted the whole thing, and planned like 4 videos, recorded them the next day, uploaded them, and I was just like, well, this is probably gonna be something that I get bored of in like 2 weeks. This is like not really a thing. I'm just obsessed with this for the next 3 weeks. It's gonna stop, and I don't know why I didn't. I really enjoyed it, but it's kind of, I don't know. It's strange. Like, I feel dissociated from it in a weird way, if that makes sense. Like, why am I talking to Ghazzy right now? I'm just like a dude. I'm just a guy who like plays Path of Exile and got addicted to making videos. So
I think it's fun. Like, when I grew up, I had a very poor household, and I moved out of my house when I was 17. So I worked a part-time job next to me, being in school to pay for my rent, which was kind of rough. But something me and my closest friends always talked about was that what's important in life is freedom. The problem is that in today's society, a lot of that freedom is gated behind money. So all of us were like super focused on making money, and most of that in the early stages, without going to university, stuff like that, would be within sales. So I worked with sales and account manager, and I was a key account manager at a company for one time. And then I slipped in from friends' contact to because I have a knack for math. I think it's boring as fuck, but apparently I'm rather decent at it. So I started working as maintenance and programming for PLC programming with VMS systems, which is like automated storage solutions with conveyor belts and automatic cranes, stuff like that, which led to me getting some side classes or educations on the side, and then my contract changed to a mechanical engineer. And I love that,
Okay.
but it's a lot of work, and I don't mind that. That shift with the work ethics. But
Yeah.
I started with the stream and everything, and back then the stream didn't generate even close to the money you make as a mechanical engineer. But the freedom of everything else that comes from having your own company was just so good. And when it turned out that this was something I could do full time, I just leapt into it. Said, okay, I'm just gonna throw myself off the cliff. It turned out a full time job. I said, you know what? I'm gonna try to be a streamer. I'm enjoying this. I love this community that I've built, and we'll see if the, if I crash and burn or if this holds. And many years later, I'm very happy I did that call.
Are you still enjoying it as much as you did back then?
Absolutely, absolutely. I really do, but
Really?
it's like you mentioned as well. Like when you said you weren't the kind of guy that was screaming, and like the other streamers. I don't know. I've always find
Yeah.
it hard to like compare myself to other streamers, because like I feel like I've done this in a different way from my perspective, since I started just to have it easier responding to people verbally with the guides. I'm just gonna be myself, I'm just a gamer like everyone else, and it's still surreal to me when people like drop big donuts and subs gifts and stuff like that. Even after this many years,
Yeah.
it's hard. I don't think I'll ever get used to it, because to me it's just weird that we streamers get praised for a lot of weird things. Something I preach a lot about on stream is like this whole thing with just trying to be a decent human being. Just trying to be that is apparently enough to be praised, and I think that's fucked up. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. But are you? How's your situation after 2 years of streaming? Like part time, full time. Like how's the scheduling going for you, and how are you enjoying it so far?
Yeah, I'm really loving it, but it's just like a side hustle at the moment. It's just like a thing on the side. So I work as a podcast editor, freelance podcast editor during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll do music for someone, but that's like that's maybe once every 6 months, once every 4 months. And in terms of going full time, though, it's both such an exciting idea and so scary, because then it's like you versus an algorithm and
Yeah.
your community and your own motivation. And some days I'll just like, I don't want to play Path of Exile. I don't want to play this game. Like I want to do anything else. And the idea of, if this was my full-time job right now and I had to play Path of Exile, I would be miserable. So there's that side of it that's so scary. And also, like I said, like algorithms, YouTube can just decide, all right, we're not showing your videos to as many people, or your CPM, like how much money you get per 1,000 views, is just, I don't know, 30% less this month. And then what do you do?
Yeah. Ad incentive was good in October, and then crashed and burned December, January, February. As an example.
Another thing. Yeah. So maybe when Path of Exile 2 comes out, that'd be that. I feel like that, if there ever is a time to go full time, that's it. Because that's just gonna be like an explosion of community, explosion of content and everything that there's like, you can do videos on everything, right? You can do a video on like playing through Act 1, and like thousands of people are gonna watch it. So
No, for sure. I mean, it's definitely scary. I know, like I've been around for what, almost 9 years now, and something that I've always thought about when it comes to like work, like I enjoyed my mechanical engineer time. That was really fun. It was always something different, and I really enjoyed that. And that's all probably why I enjoy Path of Exile, because every 3 months there's something different.
Yeah.
And they add patch notes and everything. But it's like, I think that the only time over the 9 years that I've had that I've really felt like it's playing Path of Exile is a job is probably 3.15. Not gonna lie.
Not 3.19?
No, 19 wasn't. I had so much work to do, so to say, because of the fact like I do a lot of different builds, caster builds, a lot of totem builds, but most of my stuff is actually with minions, as most people know. And the reason for that is very simple. It's because we don't really have that many people in the community that digs deep enough into minions because of how complex they are.
Yeah.
And I've kind of like gotten slotted into that role many years ago, and I just kept at it. I love playing minions, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love it. I league start most of the times with it as well, and I enjoy it. But in 3.19, there was so much stuff and tests that needed to be done. And something a lot of people in Path of Exile miss out when it comes to changes with minions is that very often there are changes that are not documented, which means that most things that are rather complex in terms of how mechanics work needs to be reconfirmed every league. So there's always a lot to do.
Yeah. Rip Bob 1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
always fun.
do you take breaks between, you know, a lot of streamers, they'll upload videos, stream like crazy for a month and then just disappear for 2 months? Do you do that, or do you do like you just keep playing, or do you do other games?
Well, as long as I have projects going, you know, plus minus sponsors, it's like Path of Exile is always going to be pressured quite hard on the first month, and then second and third month, I have a tendency of trying to weave in something else to play at some point. Like we have the Torchlight's been fun, and last Epoch had multiplayer testing recently. Diablo 2 has a new ladder reset soon as well. So there's a lot of other things that could go when it comes to the ARPG genre. I have this really bad addiction to World of Warcraft, but not the retail, the classic. So I do play that, but I only stream that on my alt account, or I stream on the main account a little bit during like new releases, like the World War Phase 2 Wrath of Lich King came out recently. I streamed that a little bit, but outside of that, not really. Now, it's something that I actually want to do. I tried out Dark and Darker the other day as well. It was really fun.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure you've noticed as well, like when you stream Path of Exile as much as we do, and you switch to another game, a lot of the audience just isn't interested in that.
Vanishes.
Yeah. And with that incentive being, I mean, hate to say it, I'm sorry, chat. The ads do pay the money. They pay the bill sometimes. And in that case, if we lower, if we jump around to other games, that means the next month's ad incentive will be literally ruined. But on the other hand, as a Path of Exile streamer going 3-month cycles, that means that the second month of a league is normally pretty good. Viewership will go down, but the ad incentive is based off the league launch numbers. So, I mean, there are some perks around it at least.
Yeah. Speaking of ads, why do PoE content creators not do ads on YouTube? Like I did an Opera GX ad and I felt weird. Everyone was on board. Like the community is all on board, but a lot of YouTube videos, they always start with an ad. And there's like, I mean, Zizaran, for example, and you got like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of subscribers, but no one's doing ads, and that those can pay some like good money. Just wondering, is there a thing against it in the community, or do the offers not come, or what is it?
I think it kind of depends. I mean, you obviously have sponsorship agents and whatnot. I don't have one. I know some people that do. So obviously sponsors landing in your lap is one thing. But I've seen some offers, but it's also important to make sure that whatever you're promoting is, you know, a good promotion, if you will. And, you know, I'm sure your inbox is spammed with RMT websites wanting you to promote their shit, and they pay a fuckload of money.
Oh, really?
But, you know, take one of those and your career's over in the community. So.
Oh, yeah. It's over. All the Raid Shadow Legends. That's another one.
That's actually fun. I've done it a few times, but every time I've been offered, I've asked the chat beforehand, before signing anything. I'd be like, yo, guys, I've been offered the Raid Shadow, the best mobile game ever, guys, by the way. Should I take this? And, you know, the chat says, yes, go for the bag. And then I do the promotion as they want to, which is just, I don't want to say too much because I don't know if I'm allowed to from a last contract a year ago. But yeah, it's for the bag, but it's more of a meme, I guess. But other than that, I don't know. I think that like if you have the possibility of getting sponsorships on YouTube and stuff like that, you should take it. I mean, it helps pay the bills. There's no reason not to, as long as it's a decent promotion and not harmful, like NFTs and stuff like that. Holy.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was
that's cool.
Scary. I think Sis made a tweet saying he had offers for like fucking $700,000-$800,000 or something during that year.
I saw that for NFTs.
Yeah.
That's crazy money. But again, it's just like you do that once and you've nuked your channel. No one will respect you. Everyone will just think you're just like selling out your audience. I don't even know why they bother. Have you ever seen an RMT ad on a YouTube video? Like,
yeah, Um,
Oh, really?
there's
Okay.
a YouTube channel that I might be wrong, so don't hold me to it. I think it's called like
Okay.
Path of Exile builds or something.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so when you search for builds in Path of Exile, because of the channel name, it usually pops up very high, and that goes directly to a website which is promoting RMT straight off the bat.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is, as someone who focuses so much on written guides like I do, like I mentioned before, like I believe the last time I checked my numbers over the 9 years, I had like 102, 103 million views or something. And you know, that's my YouTube is nothing compared to the written guides that I have. And recently, I've
Okay.
been moving over all my guides to PoE Vault, which I've been in about a year now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool to see that kind of traffic and how much it actually generates, especially during league launches. So I can just imagine how much the RMT promotions would be on a website like that. I mean, that's crazy money.
Yeah.
But then again, you know,
Yeah.
not everything is worth the money, right? It's like Path of
No.
Exile started as at least for me, it was mostly about community building. That was the main focus, and it's turned into more and more business oriented recently in the last couple of years. And it's just a bit of a balance act trying to go through everything, you know, tiptoe around, see what happens. What's okay and not okay.
Yeah. Oh. So how risky do you think it is going full time?
um,
Extremely?
so I had a little bit of money aside
Okay.
when I started doing it, but I was also at a point where my part-time income from the stream was pretty much paying the bills. So I was living month
Okay.
to month when I did it. And that I think was a scary part, because if 1 month would, you know, obviously you have a spike on the first league launch and then down second, crash to nothing on third.
Yeah.
So with the statistics I had over 2 year time, I think it was not 1.5 year time, would be enough to make it. That's when I did the risky decision, because I felt like it should be able to be a bit better if I, you know, play my cards right and do this in a good way with the extra time I would be able to put on streaming rather than the part-time job. But I mean, it's a lot of work, like you said. I mean, it's just pumping content consistently. Sleep doesn't exist. Written guides takes a lot of time. I mean, I was hitting 300 to 350 hours a month during league launch months, a little less in
Whoa.
second, and a little less than that on third. And, you know, half of that, a little bit more than half of that was actually live hours. And nowadays I have an editor on YouTube, and I got an amazing team in my mod chats, a mod team that has helped me with these things as well. And that has alleviated a lot of hours from it, which I have not been very effective with redistributing my time. So that's on me. But no, I mean, it's all depending on how you progress it. I mean, you have streamers like
Yeah.
MB Extreme, for example, who's doing everything himself, modding the chat, doing everything
Mm.
himself, YouTube editing, recording, streaming, does everything himself, for as an example. Whereas in my case, I'm the exact opposite. I want the team behind me that can make sure that certain things are correct. But they've helped me in other things as well. I mean, a prime example is one of the most have been around for 7 years, Tsubaka Kaka. I have a stream schedule now, which I didn't have in the start, and I credit that entirely to him, because he was on me like a fucking hawk. I shit you not. So I mean, there's pros and cons. Like you mentioned before, with like a normal job, if you will, a 9 to 5 job,
Yeah.
where you have someone watching over you, like you have a boss that you know you get the shit done, because
Yeah, you do.
there's going to be consequences directly from there. But it's the same when you have your own business and doing full time streaming as well. So I mean, but it's a lot about self discipline, if you will.
Yeah. But if you're loving it, then it's so much easier, right?
Oh, for
If
sure.
you're really enjoying it, yeah. Are you? I feel like I'm interviewing you now. You don't have to answer if you don't want, but how's it gonna be when you have your baby?
No
Are
idea.
you worried about that? You don't know. You're gonna just figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no idea. Schedule wise, might have to change and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll take it as it comes. I guess it's. I'm excited and scared, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's life changing for sure.
Yeah. Once you, I guess the thing about risk, right, in terms of going full time is just what's happening in your life, right? We're just buying a house now. So going full time, really stupid idea. I feel like I could pull it off, but it's a gamble. Whereas like 10 years ago, I would have been full time like ages ago. So actually, what's sad is I was playing in a cover band for like 5 years,
Yeah.
and I loved playing music. I hated everything else about it. I hated having to drive to venues and like the politics and all of that, and the money. What I'm earning now on YouTube and streaming, which is now my little side hustle, is like double what I was, double or triple what I was getting paid playing in a band. And I'm just like, man, if only we had good internet like 5 years before, I would have been doing this like way sooner. And
Yeah.
now I'm at the point where it's a gamble. The idea of doing it's a gamble, but I might.
No.
I might.
No, it's definitely a risk to take, but it's like I don't know. It's always the same thing. Like music industry is in some way similar to streaming from my experience as well. It's like they want to pay you an exposure, and a lot of
Oh, yeah.
sponsorships you get in your inbox is like, hey, here's an affiliate link, you'll be paid as long as your community is buying our products and stuff like that. And so I mean, there's a lot of that going on in any industry, I guess, when it comes to entertainment, if you will.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's I think it's pretty cool in general, but it's kind of depends on where you live as well. Like me and Hannah, my fiance, we're trying to save up money right now to buy a house, but with the baby coming, like all that money is just literally back up now, because when she goes on parental leave. Oh, we just talked about that before I went live today, and she told me the approximate estimate that she was gonna make. I was like, yeah, okay, right. That house, we might have to nibble on that money during that time. I'm just not gonna lie, honey. Like, we're gonna have to hold off on that one unless some crazy shit happens with the stream. Let's be real here.
QE2 when it needs to happen.
Pretty much. But no, I mean, I'm excited for that as well. But you're in South Africa, right? And you keep telling me when I see in chat, you're like, yeah, they're gonna turn off the power, so I'll gonna be back later. Like, what? Like, elaborate for me, please. Like, the turn off the power, like the town just shuts off the entire electricity.
Yeah. All right. So we have something called load shedding. And basically our power infrastructure is crumbling. It's in disrepair. There's not enough electricity to go around. And this has been happening for like the last, I think 12 or 13 years ago is when it started happening. And they're not making it better. They're not fixing it. There's I don't know. It's just like there's corruption. There's not enough money. The infrastructure is crumbling. And now we're at the point where, like I said, there's not enough electricity to go around. So we take turns. We take turns with the electricity. It sounds so crazy. Like, we're all used to it, but we take turns with the electricity. So like the province or whatever is broken up into zones.
Okay.
So a zone will be like maybe 10 suburbs, not 10 suburbs, like 5 suburbs. And then we've got an app on our phone, and it gives you a notification like, all right, today your power is going to be off at 6 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., 12 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., and then 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And it's fucked. It's so bad. It's so bad. And there's like different stages. So if you're on stage 2, then you only get 2.5 hours of power cuts a day. If you're on stage 4, which is where we've been for like 2 or 3 months, it's like 7 hours of power cuts a day.
But how do you deal with food? Like refrigerator and freezer?
I mean, those normally, if you just keep the fridge closed, like nothing goes off. But once it has gone up to like stage 6 before, which is like 10.5, 11 hours of power cuts a day, that's when like shit in your freezer starts going off, and like your fridge. All South Africans in chat, just it's
wow.
So bad, man. But once we actually signed papers for our house on Friday, once that's done, whole house getting covered in solar, just the whole thing. So we don't
Nice.
have to worry about it. Yeah. But it's I like I'm gonna have to borrow money from my parents to do that, but they understand. My dad's he's like a full-on solar guy. He's been doing solar for ages. So he went he's like off the grid pretty much. So this doesn't affect him. But
Mm.
for everyone else, it's really bad, and it's bad for businesses. I read somewhere that we are losing like R1 billion. Okay, what is a rand in real currency? A rand is like 20 rands to a pound, or
Okay, about
what?
a euro,
I don't.
22 euros. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
yeah. So we're losing like R1 billion of, I don't know. It's
Jesus.
so that's yeah. When I'm like, I have to go, the power's going off. It's because the power's going off.
That's crazy.
But
But when you get a house,
yeah,
will you have internet access though? I'm guessing the ISPs will have power all the time. I'm guessing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, we do. I mean, at the moment, we've got a little bit of solar, so that's enough to run the modem's always plugged in, and during the day, I can run my computer on it, but everything else goes off, and
Hmm.
it's such a pain, man. So that's load shedding for you. Welcome. It's just like a reminder.
It sounds
You
crazy.
live in Africa. You do live in Africa.
I mean, it's like
weird.
when I hear the people, like I have a lot of people in the States that I play games with or friends, and when they talk about how bad their ISP is, I'm like, I'm in Sweden, man. I got better internet on my phone than you guys on your fucking house. It's fine. And then I hear you with the load shedding. I mean, I'm sure you've gotten this question a million times, but since we're on being on call and being recorded, what's your opinion on moving out of the fucking country? Now you're getting a house. I'm assuming it's a no-go, but like, what's your thoughts around that?
Nah. No. I like it here. I lived in Australia for quite a few years. I actually have Australian citizenship, so I could
Oh,
just go over if I wanted, but I don't know. I'm like established here, so
yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I wanted to move out of Sweden for tax reasons, but my fiance, she thinks a 2-hour flight out of the country would be too far away from friends and family. And she's not a gamer, so I mean, I get it. You know, all friends, everyone close by, and not being a gamer. Like for me, I meet some of my friends maybe 4 or 5 times a year. I got one buddy that comes over maybe once a month, and other than that, all my friends are online. So I don't have a problem with that.
That's all the socializing we need, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the same. If I normally see my friends like, I don't know, if it's once a week, that's like more than enough. Even if it's my closest friends, right?
Mm-mm.
But how's it? Okay, so you get taxed like crazy over there, right?
Yeah.
But do you don't pay for like hospitals and doctor's visits and stuff, and university, and you have electricity?
University we'd have to pay for,
You
but
do?
you have like a
Okay.
governmental institute that dishes out the loan for you. The interest rate on that loan, at least till now, might be different these days, but at least till a couple of years ago, I know that the interest rate was lower than the expected inflation. So I mean, you earn money taking the loan essentially. I had a CNC. Do you know what a CNC is?
No. What's that?
It's basically machines that cut metal or plastic, for that matter, either with laser cutters or with just metal cutters. So CNC education was about different languages and programming those things. So I took a 1-year education for that a couple of years ago, just to have something to fall back on. Because I had that as a extra work task, if you will, with the mechanical engineer job, and some of the parts took too long to get, so we just had me make the stuff instead. That was cheaper. So I took a loan for that. I think I have the papers here somewhere. That loan, I think what's really funny is that since I have the stream as a business, I have a tax papers on myself that is both for private being hired as an employee and for business. And the student loan I took for this goes on my private income, which is literally zero money every year. So I'm paying the absolute minimum amount of month that they ever could charge me. And I'm paying like, it's almost nothing, but because of the inflation on the interest, it's cheaper for me to pay that every month rather than just pay it off. But that's Sweden, so
Okay.
But yeah, hospital, same thing. Like we don't pay shit ever, but the taxes are already covering those things. But there's a lot of benefits to it, but it can be a bit frustrating when you see how much money that you're coming in is just going to the government. But there's definitely
Yeah.
pros around it. How's the taxes in South Africa? If you don't mind.
It's, I think it, well, I mean, I don't know if it's how to compare it, but I think we only have 10% of our population pays tax. So
What?
let me actually just check that. Yeah. So we've got like 35% unemployment here.
Oh, Jesus.
So let's see, pay tax. Let's see what percentage of South Africans pay tax. I don't know. I'm trying to find the number. It's super low. So our tax is high, and the people who do cross that tax threshold pay quite a lot. And the frustrating thing is that, like, you pay all this tax, I still have to pay to go to the doctor. The roads are fucked. The electricity doesn't work. And there's corruption. You see, like, some politician bought his kid like a 500,000 Rand Audi or something. So that's frustrating. I mean, we do
Yeah.
have public hospitals. It's not as bad as the United States, where, well, I don't know. I don't live there, but you hear these horror stories. We do have public hospitals that function, but it doesn't feel as good. I would pay 40% tax if I didn't have to pay for hospital or that kind of stuff, and shit just worked. How about public transport? Do you pay for that?
Yeah, yes,
Public
we do pay
transport?
for that.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
We also, healthcare is free, except apparently our teeth is not included in our regular healthcare. So you go to the dentist there, they're gonna rob you. But it's very cheap in Poland, and it takes me about I don't know, an hour to get to Poland from here. So a lot of people they take like bigger what do you call it, surgeries or operations with your teeth. People just go to Poland, get that shit done for a fraction of the cost.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, I like it's kind of fine, but it can be a bit annoying. But then
I know what you mean. Yeah, like when my tax came through earlier in December, I was like, holy shit! Like, this feels so bad. Just seeing your bank account getting like a fat chunk taken out of it, gone. So, and yours is like way worse than that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of pros around it. But you said you lived a couple years in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Which is close to New Zealand. And later this year, we're going to have ExileCon. And you're going, right?
No.
No?
I wish, but no. I would love to, but, like I said, buying a house.
Yeah.
And there's not money for that. Like, the flight cost is crazy. Then you have to pay for accommodation, and it would be an absolute dream to go, but yeah, it's not gonna happen. Are you going?
I am going, yes.
You are going?
Yeah, I was there last time. Held a panel with build creation. It was really fun as well.
Right, yeah.
It was really cool to go, definitely, but it's not cheap.
No.
Takes me a 27-hour flight with the layover. Yeah. So that's fun. But New Zealand is not a cheap country to neither stay in or eat either.
Nope.
So there's a lot of costs involved. But I know they talked about last time that potentially ExileCon 2 would be placed in the States instead to make it somewhat easier for people. But I mean, I understand why they don't want to do that, since the tickets, they're selling out. The venue is full. So why would they go through the cost and the logistics of hosting it somewhere else when they can have the vast majority, if not everyone from the entire company, be present if it's in Auckland, right? Yeah. So I get it, but no, it's a cool country. So I hope they continue with these ExileCons in the future and host them regularly, because it's really cool. But the costs are going. It's pretty gnarly.
Deep, hey. I think if I were to go live somewhere else, it would be New Zealand.
Yeah,
that's where all the South Africans go.
Really?
We're scattered. Yeah, so South Africans, I swear, like 20% of the population of Australia is South African, and same with Canada, New Zealand. I think they also go to London, but New Zealand, I think if I ever were If I ever were, maybe it's just because I want to be close to GGG and be able to go to ExileCon, but
Fair.
I don't know. I like it here for some reason, although I think when I'm in a place like Australia, when I lived somewhere like that, the negatives of South Africa are so much more obvious, other than the ones that are like we don't have power, but just things like safety. It's not like I've never had my house broken into or anything like that, but just when you live here, you kind of just learn to just watch your back when you're walking down the street. You just constantly just walk, take a few steps, check over your back, because you're gonna get mugged if you don't eventually. It's gonna happen if you're like walking, looking at your phone, tapping in the city. You like there's probably a 90% chance someone's gonna mug you.
That is insane.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, you get used to it, but it's kind of fucked that you get used to that, right? That you are like on alert, and then when you go to somewhere like Australia that's so safe, you feel it all just like go away, and you're just like, whoa, that's not something I should be used to, right? My brother lives in Melbourne. He's been living in Melbourne for like I don't know, a long time, and he doesn't like it here. He
No, I
doesn't like it
bet.
here.
I
Yeah.
mean, I've been complaining about like civil courage is the English expression for it, I guess. Like
Civil
when
courage.
I think that's the expression. Like basically, if someone sees crime happening in front of them, they would step in and help.
Oh,
Isn't that? I
yes,
think that's
yeah.
called civil courage.
Yeah.
Which is very common here in Sweden. And something that I've experienced firsthand is with recent things that's happening in Sweden. It's been a lot of racism, tons of it, and that's something I grew up because dark hair, a little darker. Not now because I've been indoors for the last 9 years and I'm pale as a ghost. But like I was basically the darkest guy in the class, and that's when I was younger. So I've had that experience firsthand. But like in society, like to public transport and stuff like that, that was always a thing. But recently, last couple of years, racism has been more and more of an issue, and that civil courage doesn't really exist anymore because now people, because of the politics and stuff like that, is like people think that it's okay because now more people think that I do kind of approach, and it's just been crazy. And that's been my complaint. But hearing you say that just like 90% chance to get mugged walking around with your phone, I think that my problem with Sweden seems to be kind of small in comparison.
Racism, pretty big problem, man. That's like a good way to feel unsafe in your own city or your own country. I didn't know it was so bad there. What kind of people are they? Is it like very homogenous there? Is everyone kind of white, blonde hair, blue eyed?
A lot of it, yeah. But it kind of depends. Like I've heard that racism towards Asians is apparently a big problem in major cities. I have no idea about that. Like I think that one of the craziest stories was from me personally was like I got on a bus a couple years back, and there was this dude who had a bag on the other. The bus was full. People were standing up, and I was tired as fuck. And there was this guy who had his bag on the other seat. So I walked up to him and was like, yo, can you move your bag, please? And he looked at me and said, it's not my bag. So I was like, okay, you know what? Then you don't mind if I put it on the floor so I can sit down. And he just looked out the window. And just as I was reaching for the bag, there was an older lady right behind him who said, oh, it's my bag. Took the bag up, sat down on the seat that I was about to sit on, and told another person next to her to sit on where she was sitting. So I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother. Fuck this. I'm too tired. So I just took another place and stood up and just was about to put my earbuds in for music. And then I hear her say, and I shit you not, the bus was full. She says, people like him shouldn't be allowed to sit on buses. And I'm not the kind of guy that turns down from an argument. So like, I got furious. So I turn around and just lock eyes in her. And just as I open my mouth, there's like two other people right next to her who goes like, yeah, that's right. Starts agreeing with her. And dude, my jaw was on the ground. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Holy shit.
And there were more people chiming in, being like, yeah, you're right. You know, fuck those people. Not fuck those people, but the people started agreeing. Yeah. And I was so baffled. I was like, bro, we're in a public transport. There's like at least 40 people. Like it's literally hearing you say this shit out loud. I'm standing right here, you motherfucker. What the fuck's going on?
That's so fucked. Wow. I had no idea, man. Jeez.
It's not common though. Like then again, I don't really
Yeah.
visit
Oh,
the outdoors that much these days. But that was fucked up when I experienced that. It's like, and I don't really
yeah.
consider myself to like I'm not black. I have a little darker complexity than most Swedes,
Yeah.
if you will. And dark hair and whatnot. I don't have an accent or anything like that. So I can like when I heard that, when I put my earbuds in and just turned around, I was furious. And then I started thinking, how the hell do people that have an accent or second generation
Yeah.
immigrants or people that are darker than me, how the fuck are they experience this on a daily basis? If it was so crazy, surreal, really.
Oh,
I don't know.
here.
Chat
I
saying this
feel
in
like
Ghazzy White. Well, the thing is, I am half Persian from my father's side, and then I'm a quarter German and a quarter Swedish. That makes me half a sand nugget, a quarter Nazi, and a quarter racist. So if there's ever a world war about this, I can always be on the winning side. So it's a good thing.
Wow. I think if that situation happened here, like our history has got a really, really recent and terrible history of racism.
Hmm.
But if that happened here, people would fucking lose their minds, and they would have defended you. I promise you. Well, I mean, it depends where you were. If you're
Hmm.
in the middle of the city, yeah. So hearing that, like South Africa, everyone thinks, oh, like racist, horrible country, rah, rah, rah. But I like knowing the people here. I can't imagine something like that happening here, and it's wild to hear in Sweden. Like as someone who doesn't live there, I think of Sweden like everyone is loving and happy and like super progressive and whoa.
But I mean, it definitely is
Yeah.
depending on where you are. I mean, the
Yeah.
segregation and stuff like that. I mean, it always depends. But to me, it was really surreal to experience.
Yeah, that's fucked, man. I'm sorry that happened.
I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, like I mentioned before, is like that seems like such a small problem with having a 90% risk of getting mugged going out of your.
Well, okay, I might be exaggerating.
Oh
But
man.
it did happen. Like the two I've walked through the city quite a lot of times, right? But the I learned very quickly that if you walk around with your phone, you're not paying attention. I did get mugged twice. And then ever since then, I didn't do that anymore and I stopped getting mugged. So
It's just crazy to hear, like
that
the
sounds
different
like
societies.
yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Anyways,
Where do you want to move to? You said maybe you wanted to move.
well, Sis has been preaching for years about going to Belfast for tax reasons, Northern Ireland.
Okay.
It's about 2 hour flight for
Mm-hmm.
me. Many years ago, around the time frame of ExileCon 1, well, you're in a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been together for a long time?
Almost 9 years.
Yeah, we're about to hit 8 years, I think. 7.5. But it's always ups and downs, right? So we were in a time frame where the things are more on the lower end, and we were talking about what to do, and I was talking about moving to another country, and she said no, and I was very adamant that this is very good. I mean, we can actually do this. There's solutions and a lot of arguments. You know how it goes in relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
But love is love, right? So she doesn't want to go. I'm sticking around, and but that was my plan. So that's also why it didn't happen. She wants to stick around here with family and friends, which I understand. If she was a gamer,
Yeah.
I think it would be a different story. I mean, like you mentioned before, the socializing is very different for us gamers. So that ended
Yeah.
up with me staying in Sweden, and that has worked out so far. But yeah, the goal was Belfast. We have quite a few streamers in PoE there now. I guess it's thanks to Sis actually. So it would have been fun, but it didn't happen, and I don't really mind it. It's worked out. It's worked
That's
out.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Path of Exile, which was supposed to be the main topic here, let's revert back to PoE.
Yeah.
How do you like the 319 roguelike elite mechanic so far? Because I mean, it's very different from what we've seen before. Like, what's your opinions on it?
The 321?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's great. I really enjoyed it, but I've been playing some SSF and I've kind of actually been avoiding it. So it's very fun, but I guess it feels quite limited after a while. Like eventually you kind of feel like you're doing it to chase either challenges or a sanctified relic or something like that. and I kind of felt like I've seen everything in it, so I stopped doing it. But I think it's an excellent league mechanic, right? Did you enjoy it? Because I was surprised to see a lot of people didn't like it. They said like it's not good, it's boring, it's too hard, or yeah. Did you enjoy it?
I'm a little bit split on it because the thing is, I don't agree that it should be a core league mechanic in that sense that it's good enough for that. I really like the idea that you can play the game and then have this league mechanic as a distraction from the regular way of playing the game. I love that aspect of it. I didn't find myself enjoying the aspect of doing it, but I think that has more to do with the way I play the game. I love crafting, which they've kind of hurt a lot lately, at least for the higher end crafting. And I love doing bossing, and I like testing new builds. So I've been doing that, which has nothing to do with the league mechanic. But I think I'm going to dive in more to the league mechanic personally for personal goals, I guess, later, which later means in the coming weeks, I guess. But outside of that, I find the league mechanic pretty cool. I like the idea of it. It's just not something that would fit my play style, if you will.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to describe it. But I don't know. Didn't feel like it was too hard or anything. I think it's pretty cool in general. I really don't want them to make it a core league mechanic. But then again, I had that opinion on Blight, which apparently a lot of people wanted. So
I love Blight.
Chris Wilson on ExileCon 1 asked when he was on stage, he asked if people, I don't remember exactly if he asked if people liked it or if people wanted to see it as a core league mechanic. And, I was like, I'm not going to raise my hand for this. Fuck that league mechanic. I'll look back. Fucking the majority of the people is raising their hand like, yeah! And then he says it. And like my reaction, I just shout out, what? And I think that's in the recording as well in the video. I was so
what's
surprised.
Your favorite? If you don't like Blight, oh man, Blight's one of my top 5, I would say. What do you like?
I like league mechanics that has crazy depth. Synthesis is definitely one of my favorites. I found that very enjoyable, where I could devote a lot of time of min-maxing or setting it up. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Because something that Grinding Gear Games does very, very well is distract us from the fact that this is an ARPG, which has the definition of doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. But they're very effective at distracting us from this by having these different league mechanics. And I felt like Synthesis was the best league that did that. Because as soon as you started going in and learning the synthesis and setting it up, I completely forgot that all I'm doing is just creating a template in which I will do the exact same thing I do when I'm running maps. I'm just killing monsters, picking up loot. It's the same fucking thing. It's insanity. It's just crazy. But you're so distracted from that it never got boring to do. And that's what I really like. And that's why I prefer in-depth leagues, if you will, with more complex mechanics.
That's fair. Like, what do you feel about Betrayal? Is that another one of your favorites?
It's not, actually.
It's not?
No.
Heist?
Heist, let's not talk about Heist. I like that they're the depth of them. Heist was more about the execution with the doors and everything that got me a bit distraught from it. Betrayal, I don't know. It felt to me that it was too easy to set up a meta around it. And once you have that, everything else just becomes completely useless to bother. And I didn't like that. But what's your favorite league?
I think probably Delve. I would say Delve. When it came out, of all things, I know it's weird. It might have something to do with the fact that I had a shit computer. I played on a laptop for like 6 years at about 20 FPS with 200 ping on predictive mode. And I still love this game. But then I got a good computer in like 2017. Started playing Delve, but there was something about that league, man. Like everything that came before Delve was like essences, there's a monster and it has an essence on it. Or like Breach, there's a circle and monsters come out. But then Delve was just like, here's a whole new big endgame system. And I think that always stuck with me. But other than that, man, there's so many good leagues. Blight. I can't think of any now. Blight, Harvest, delve.
Well, Harvest was fun.
Yeah, Harvest was fun. But I agree with you. I feel like we haven't had a league with massive depth in a while on the same scale as like Synthesis, where it just distracts you from the fact that you're playing Path of Exile almost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
it kind of
Expedition
was pretty cool.
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
the boss fights in Expedition were so well done.
So good.
Oh.
I want something like that, man. I
Yeah.
think my favorite league mechanics are ones that have constant something that you encounter in maps always. So something like Delirium or Expedition, and then it has like a big thing that like a simulacrum or a what's the other thing? Or a logbook or a blighted map. That's the kind of thing I like. That's what I'm into. I feel like we haven't had something like that for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
No, not
Like
really, right? But it
Yeah,
all comes down to like the type of player you are and what you enjoy. Like I love Breach League, which is a rather shallow league mechanic, to be honest. I love that, but that had more to do with that was the first league that we could like properly play poison enemy weapon with your 50 weapons. Oh, I loved it. Castle channeling with their approach to it was beautiful. So I mean, then that league enabled one of my favorite builds in the game, and that made it so much fun. So I think that league for me holds a high place in my tier list, if you will, because of what it did and how I remember it, if you will. But again, I think it all comes down to the way you play the game. That dictates the enjoyment you get from the different league mechanics in general, right? So you mentioned like in Blight. I think Blight is just I don't know. Once I get a build up with a decent budget, as I like to min max at least 1 or 2 characters a league, there's no challenge in doing it. It's just me waiting 5 minutes for shit to spawn to kill, to then run all over the place to pick up loot, and too much loot. I have to go through several portals to loot it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not a very in-depth mechanic. Like you can cheese it. Honestly, you don't even need a good build. But
also true.
I love what it stands for. I love what Blight stands for. Like lots of loot explosions and stuff. But I'm really hoping that 3.21 is. What do you think? Like, I'm just thinking about the previous leagues we've had recently. We had Lake of Calandra. We've had Sentinel. Sentinel was an excellent league. Scourge, Expedition. When was the last time we had something like very? I guess this league kind of counts as a very in-depth league, right? But it doesn't have that map section and external section. Does that make sense? Like,
well, where you can store 8 runs, right? That was enough for me to feel that you could, do 8 maps and be like, okay, I'm gonna go through my Sanctum now, and you do 8 back to back. I like that personally. It was a good balance, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I feel like I'm worse at talking about Path of Exile than other stuff.
That's fine. I mean, this
I actually
podcast. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, this podcast is like, it's just us having a talk, and wherever the topic goes is where we land. The main topic is Path of Exile. I mean, it's like, it doesn't matter. There's no structure in this. Like, if people enjoy listening to this, going like, great. This is more for me and you, in my opinion. Having a good talk with someone that's in the industry, if you will, and talking about a game we love, and everything's around it. It's the point of the podcast.
Yeah. That's cool. Do you ever think we're gonna get Reforged key prefixes and suffixes back?
Well, I'm in the section or the category of people that wants it back for a variety of reasons. I don't mind it being a rare thing, even if they introduce an orb on it or a very expensive harvest craft. I really don't mind, as long as we get it back. Because the thing is with crafting in Path of Exile is that it's so extremely complex to understand. Like, I have a huge crafting project series going on right now where I'm trying to teach people not to craft X or Y item, but actually teach people limitations, restrictions, and the actual mechanics of the different crafting methods, so people can learn this. And because once you learn it, you'll play the game in a different way, and you see items from a different light. That goes to profit crafting, even for selling items or making it easier for you to buy upgrades for your build and whatnot if you understand these things. But I think it's just so overly complex. But even once you've learned these things, crafting on the lower end and the medium budget end, if you will, is not very hard and it's not very punishing at all, and in many cases cheaper to do than to buy the items yourself. The problem with crafting for
Yes,
me
yeah.
is the higher end crafting, and I haven't really been too vocal about my complaints about that, simply because out of the 1% players that can accumulate, 10, 20,000 divine orbs, only a fraction of those 1% players actually does it. And then there's a fraction of those players that can craft mirror items, and a
Yeah.
fraction of those players actually does it.
Yeah.
And that's the category I find myself in. And the estimated average craft for the majority of mirror items that I like to craft in the past had an average craft cost of between 3,000 and 5,000 exalted orbs back then, but divine orbs now.
Yeah.
The recent craft changes moved that average craft cost on the vast majority of those to 10 to 15,000 divine orbs. And I don't like the process anymore. 3 to 5,000 was basically 2 weeks of extremely hard, sleep deprived pushes to make that money, as a team for that matter, to pull that off. And now they are expecting us to do that for 4 weeks. Shit, you're not, like, I'm not getting younger, that's for sure. There's some physical limitations that's gonna start kicking in there. So I don't know, I just don't like the high-end crafting anymore. So this is the first league in many years that I didn't do a mirror item. Kind of weird, but again, it's too few people that understands it, or even fewer that has experience with it, that is not worth for me to make a video and complain about, because most people wouldn't give a shit.
It doesn't affect that many people.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people going back to old school meta crafting just because of that one change, right? Because now if you have your suffixes and you want to work on your prefixes and you fill it, like, you're screwed now, right? You have to go for an annul. But yeah, you're right. Like, that doesn't. I have encountered it a few times this league, but nothing major, right? It's like I'm making elusive tailwind boots, and the prefixes fill, and I failed in a null. It's like 15 divines, whereas the things you're doing, it's like they're by what, like thousands of divines.
Lastly, we tried to craft a mirror bow for Grimrow, and I said, I told him we have the funds to try. And when I said we had the funds, we had about 20-25 mirrors worth of spending that we could put into it. We started off with a T1 hardest fist roll prefix blue with a prefix can't be changed suffix. Yeah. And that's when we started buying Krashik Chimerals, the imprint.
Imprint beast,
yeah. And then you'd have to, because you don't reforge magic, you first have to regal it. Mm-hmm. If that hits a prefix, it's already annoying. And then you reforge fist, trying to hit a T1 of the other fist mod. And then if there's 3 prefixes, you have to either Ferric craft off that one down to a suffix or annul it to then augment. And we were even going to settle with a tier 3 hybrid would be enough to make it a god tier bow. After spending 17 mirrors, the vast majority of that on Krashik Chimerals, we ended up having the exact same bow that we started with. Yeah. But other items, like take the Minion helmet, for example. I did a slam on that 2 weeks ago, right? We were going to settle with something way worse, but the slam was a 0.04% chance or something that I hit, which made it into this 10 to 15,000 divine category. It was just extreme luck. But the way that was crafted was, instead of having a reasonable chance of crafting it, the way you do it was fixing one side of the item, which was already a pain in the ass. And then instead of doing the metacraft process, which risks filling it, you'd have to metacraft scour into
block
slam. Yeah, so we mana block, slam, and then we had a suffix can be changed into orbit dominance or annul or scour, depending on the outcomes of those 2 slams, and then mana block, slam. And that process, it wasn't fun.
It's excruciating, man. That's like, I even had to do it a little bit this league when I crafted a helm for someone. I was just trying to get the prefixes, and just that it's like old school, man. That's the stuff that I learned crafting watching Demi And those are the videos he would do, which is just like, well, today's video, we've got our suffixes. Now we're just gonna block armor, slam, slam, annul, fail, lock suffixes, scour, just repeat. I'm like, why am I doing this in 2023? Like, what's happening? And it's just because of that one little change, that one little removal from harvest. And I don't know. I don't think we're ever gonna get it back. I really hope so. Like, make it cost freaking like 3 sacred crystallized life force and 10,000 just for
anything. Yeah, I
just
agree with that
something.
for sure. I mean, look at some generic crafts. I know in Ritual League, I talked about a lot about profit crafting because most of my money generated comes from profit crafting. In Ritual League, I sold over 400 plus 2/1s from Minion builds as one of my main sources of income. And that was, 4-socket resonators, 1 in 12 to hit. And most of the times you'd fill up the entire item when that happened. And then you do your Reforge keeping prefix. And then, depending on the prefixes, you either did Veil Chaos Crafting or bench blocking and whatnot, whatever. But that was process, right? And nowadays, you don't have that possibility. Most of the times, you're going to fill the entire item. The only way you're going to get the trigger craft is to annul it. Now, because the entire item is filled, it is a 50-50 that you remove a prefix. That means 2 out of 6, you will brick the item, losing one of the +1s. And 1 in 6 that you remove spell damage or spell damage or minion damage. If it was spell damage, it was fine because most people minion damage. Then you could fair craft that prefix in, right?
Yeah.
And then put the bench trigger, and you'd be fine. The problem with that is one of those things where the Reforged Keep craft removal actually impacts lower cost crafts, which impacts quite a few people in the community. Similar to what you mentioned, when you go into a higher budget state, a lot of people, it's not just a 1% player thing. It's like a lot of people do the Tailwind Elusive Boots, either unelevated or elevated. And that now involves a potential risk of filling the item and bricking the annul to ruin the entire item, because you can't craft it when it's double influence. You have to start over. Entirely if it hits the wrong one. Sure, if it hits a rest, you can fix it, right? Or whatever the third suffix would be. But so there are definitely impacts of these changes that hurts a large portion of the community. But like you mentioned, or like you said, I don't think it's hurting enough people for them to potentially reintroduce it. I hope they do, and I don't mind it being expensive. I just really hope they do. But it's a pipe dream at this point, from my perspective.
Do you think they ever add or remove things based on how many people it affects? Like, if 50% of the community was complaining about it, do you think they would dig their heels in and say, nope, we made harvest so you can use it in your hideout, so we're not going to add it? Or do you think they would actually, if enough people rioted, would they change it? Would they give it back?
I think that GhazzyTV has shown several times that if enough people want something, we will inevitably, or in some way or kind, get something in the lines of what we're asking for. Like the Arch Nemesis removal is one thing. Like the vast majority of the community complained. They tried to solve it, it didn't work, and then they were like, okay, we're just gonna do this instead, and now it's better, right? So I think that's definitely the case. I know a lot of people have it's a common thing when they make something that is commonly perceived as bad, that they get a lot of shit. They're out of touch. They don't know what they're doing. They don't give a shit.
Crazy, man. How quickly people turn on them.
Yeah, the vision. But I mean, I think that they have a starting point, and then they have a goal of what they want with the vision. The problem that I've experienced from my perspective is that take Flask, for example, as a great example of this. Yeah. So they, instead of taking 2 steps forward, which would allow them to put in the nerf to it and a countermeasure to the new way of using the Flask, so that it would actually function in a good way, they stopped on the first step, which would just make everything super bad, and it was just terrible. Everybody hated it. And then later the fix came in, and I would say the Flasks are genuinely in a better position than it's ever been. I think Flasks are great. They are actually an upgradable character progression for any build now. And I think it's great. And that's excluding things like Meixsell and stuff like that. You can have your delinquent, transgressor, flagellant Flask for cheap version of Meixsell with block versions and stuff like that. I love it. I think it's great. Everything they've done with Flask now is amazing. But this whole thing with taking 1 step forward, which people perceive as 1 step backwards, instead of
Yeah.
taking 2 steps, get whatever they want, and
okay.
then the countermeasure to it would be a better way to approach it, I guess. But I mean, I'm not a game dev either. Sorry.
Yeah, and I don't think there's no like rule book on this stuff. So when they make changes, I mean, it's impossible. Well, maybe not impossible, but they can't know for sure if it's the best change for something, right? And I think Subtractum on our little podcast changed my mind about this. He says, I would rather have a game dev that is willing to take risks than one that is always going to play it safe. And that, I mean, I've always been a GGG fanboy. Last league, I had a little slip up, but I think he's right about that, right? The game is just, over the course of time, the game's just getting better and better and better and better. I don't feel like it's ever slipping backwards, but there are moments where, we have like a 3.19, but they're always, the changes they're making are interesting, right? If they do something extreme, like, I don't know, changing flasks, the end result, maybe it takes a few leagues, is hopefully that we have a much improved flask system. Whereas if they had never ever done anything and just been like, well, flasks, this is how they are, and just deal with it, then well, we'd still have like doing this all the time instead of having like auto flasks and stuff. So I think
that's a fair way to put it. I always have said that I think the GGG are, for the most part, very open in taking risky choices, and the community is very fast on giving them a lot of shit when that doesn't go well. And I don't think that people are remembering the times where they've taken risky moves where it's been successful. When they see, people want them to take risks, but they completely neglect the idea that they are taking a lot of risks consistently many times over. It's just that whenever it's good, it's not considered risk. It's like, oh, this was a good move. That's not a risky move. That's a good move.
True, yeah.
But if it's a risky move and it's bad, then it was a risky move and that was bad. Why are they taking this risk kind of approach? I know it's kind of hard, right? But I agree that the game has definitely developed and become better and better as it goes, which is why I'm so excited for PoE2. We're going to get the beta date on ExileCon, right? So
I believe so.
When do you think that it's going to land? Because I'm thinking it's going to be at the end of the year, like November, December is what I'm thinking we're going to get the beta.
That would be exciting. A lot of people have been saying that they reckon that 3.22 is going to be the beta, but I mean, that's like
I doubt that.
Copium.
No,
way. I would, for the beta, end of the year, I would probably say that's something that makes sense. I really hope so, and I hope I can get in. I hope I can email GGG and be like, please, I have a YouTube channel, let me in. Otherwise, I'm gonna be like, oh man, if I have to watch other people play PoE2 for the first time, I'm gonna cry.
I think that they might give us a more of a taste of it at ExileCon. Yeah. Last time we got to play an overtuned initial start of it. Jesus Christ. It was overtuned. Let me put it that way.
It was overtuned.
It was crazy.
Are you? Wait, what was I gonna ask? I was gonna ask something about it. Forgot now. Damn it. I don't know. Let's move on. I'll probably remember 2 seconds later.
That's fine. But no, I think that they made a statement about people should plan their trip to go home rather early after the event, which makes me believe that because of long travel times, that the next 322 is very likely happening 2 weeks after the event.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. And I don't think that they would have a beta be the big thing they're announcing as something that you're going to be doing after all of the exposure they're going to get from ExileCon. I think that they're going to launch an actual league directly after, because they're going to have so much exposure and traffic coming in, social media and everything, that having a league release will be that. I'm pretty sure that's what the post said. I actually brought it up here. Let's see. It said Path of Exile 3.22 expansion. If you're coming to ExileCon and wanting to do some travel within New Zealand around that time, we're generally recommending that people travel before the convention rather than afterwards. The reason for this is that we're currently planning to reveal 3.22 expansion at ExileCon, and its launch will take place soon after. So it's just straight up confirmed, right? But I don't think that we're going to have the beta within a short time span after ExileCon, which is why I'm thinking we're going to see that in the fourth quarter instead of the year. That's what I'm expecting, at least.
Okay. That makes sense. And when do you think full release will be? Next year sometime? Hopefully.
The question is, if we get, how long did it take with the beta for Act 4? Do you guys remember? Or do you remember?
Act 4. Did
or when it changed to 10 acts, actually. That would be a better.
Yeah, didn't the game release with, I mean, like the official release, wasn't that the end of Act 3 or was that Act 4?
We had
Jeez.
We had Piety be the endgame boss in the start.
Yes, yeah.
And then we got Dominus. And then we got Act 4. And then we changed everything into 10 acts.
10 acts.
Which was crazy, right? But we had a beta.
That was
for Act 4, I believe. Did we never had a beta for 5, 6, 5 and forward, right? Did we?
I don't think so.
I don't remember. Maybe chat does. I know we had a beta for Act 4 because we had some really cool specters to play with back then.
Ah. I was playing back when Val Oversoul was the final boss and we had 4 difficulties.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. The good old days, right?
I joined in around before at Siri, because I was the first summoner player to kill Uber at Siri with minions.
Oh,
people told me that wasn't doable. That's where my stream kicked off, actually.
Nice.
That was pretty cool.
Prove them wrong.
Yeah, but you've started like when did you start playing Path of Exile then?
I just did 10 years ago, like last month, January 2013. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to both Bex and Chris about that not long ago, of how crazy the time has been and like how crazy it's been with where we started and where we are today with everything that's going on. Both from Chris and Bex and us streamers, there's not that many of us streamers that been streaming that long that is in PoE. Some of us some of the streamers have been moving on to Lost Ark, for example, recently.
Yeah.
But no, it's been a wild ride. It's life defining is what I referred it to.
It has been, actually. Come to think of it, this game is, it's like been a part of my life for a long time now, and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon, right?
No, but that
is it gonna be? Yeah, we're gonna be like 50 years old playing Path of Exile 3. I hope so.
That would be the dream, right?
That'd be great. Yeah.
But wasn't it like the same thing with like Diablo for us to play that, many years ago? That was like the game to play. 10 years after it was released, people still played it.
Oh yeah, I've been playing D2 since it came out. Yeah. Like on and off and on and off. I love that game.
But what kind of builds did you go for when in the early stages when you started playing? Because like the game was way slower than. I'm gonna get a drink, but I can still hear you talk, so I'll be back in a bit.
Yeah, go for it. Early builds in Path of Exile. Honestly, back then, like you just winged it, right? I don't know if anyone in chat remembers or was playing back then. There was no POB, there's no build guides. There was nothing. You'd be like, I'm going to play a witch. Oh, there were no ascendancies. So you'd pick a witch and you'd be like, I'm going to play Freezing Pulse Witch because I'm a witch and I have a Freezing Pulse. And that's all I have access to. And like, maybe if you're lucky, you'll get a Fall Link. And I'm glad we're in a different place now where you can plan builds. But like back then, I don't know. You just play whatever you could find, right? It was like ruthless everywhere mode.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But it's like, the game was way slower, right? But then again, ARPGs in general has always been very slow when they launch. And then somehow they need to introduce this feeling that the new stuff that you're being presented by the game is increasing your power, you are now becoming stronger,
Yes.
and that's usually connected to clear speed, and the game gets faster and faster and faster and faster and faster.
Mhm.
And then you'll reach a point where the main reason I don't like Warframe is because it's like sprint, slide, jump, 24/7. Shoot a couple things, sprint, slide, jump, sprint, slide, jump, and that power creep. I don't find it enjoyable at all. And I think that GGG, with their vision of the game, hit that that breaking point where they felt like, hey, we gotta slow shit down. So they started by ramping up minion HP or enemy HP. Bosses got super tanky at one point to the point where it wasn't worth killing the boss till you were high budget build. You clear the map, but you ignore that goddamn boss. It wasn't worth it. And you know, when that transition happens, it's very, very hard for a game genre that is designed to introduce new stuff, and new stuff is making you more powerful, and you're supposed to be feeling that progression that, hey, I'm faster, I'm stronger, I'm better. You know, that's the character progression in an ARPG in general. And suddenly, the company's like, yo, we got to slow this down because this is not the game we wanted to create. We need to, you know, tone that down a little bit. And when they take that power away, that feels really bad.
Yep, it does. I don't know how else they're supposed to do it, though.
It's a balance act in general, meta shifts and whatnot. I think that topic in general with how they do those things is as fragile or hard to talk about as Harvest nerfs. I think we all can agree that Harvest was way too strong in its original iteration. And I think that I usually say that if you ask 1,000 people how they should have nerfed Harvest, you would get at least 500 different suggestions that would be really good. But none of those options would be considered a good option according to the majority of the player base. I don't agree at all with how they did it. I'm not a big fan of it at all. Of being a streamer or player that focuses so much on crafting, I don't agree at all with what they did to Harvest. But I also think that no matter what choice they would have done, I would have had that exact same opinion unless they used the opinion the suggestion that I had. Yeah.
What was your idea? How would you have fixed Harvest?
With Harvest, well, the bench in like they have now, I just don't think that the juice itself would be in the sense that they have it. I think that the juice would instead be based off boss drops instead of an entire mechanic by itself. So you would actually get this from the bosses, and this juice would just be instead of different colors, it would be based off the level of the map you did. So you would have access to crafts that could only hit the highest, the tiers of a certain level, depending on the map you did. So an example of this, let's say that, let's say we take Energy Shield because that goes all the way to, on a Vol Regal, it would go all the way to 86 item level, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you did an item, that you did a white tier map. That would give you white tier juice, and you could craft with that, but those crafts that you have available would only allow you to hit a certain tier of mods that would be up to whatever item level that would be.
68.
Yeah, like as an example, right? So only up to item level 68 crafts would be able to be used with that juice. But if you did yellow tier maps, the boss would drop a bit of juice, and you would then be able to craft a higher tier. Because that to me sounded like a reasonable solution to allow people to feel more inclined to use the crafts, and also allow people to generally get into the crafting and understanding and feel a character gear progression that way. But this would be completely different compared to how Harvest was originally suggested, obviously. And the way I would like to see it is it's like a completely different mechanic, if you will, in that sense. And I would rather see these special things be rare drops or have a higher probability from endgame bosses, like you did a Shape or Elder or whatever. That would give you the possibility to do like a Reforged Keep, for example, or Fracture Craft on those things. It just incentivize people to do this. I think that would not just help new and newer and casual players alike, but also be beneficial for Solo Self-Fund, which I don't really care too much about. I just like that idea myself, and any other solution would be... yeah, it would be meh from my perspective. But again, my suggestion is surely completely fucking frowned upon by the vast majority of the community, as with everything else, right? So I think it's really hard for them to find a balance on Harvest. I do, however, believe that the biggest issue that GGG did with Harvest was to reintroduce it as a core league mechanic in an unnerfed state right after Harvest League. If they reintroduced it in a nerf state, people wouldn't be this upset about it. That's my opinion. I think that's the biggest reason.
It's true. It was so powerful. It was too powerful. And then to go from that and then draw it back again, like you made a good point where actually, is this quite what you were saying? It's almost like the opposite of what you were saying earlier about flasks, right? Where they what over nerfed it or like didn't get it right and then take a step back and then they quite get it right. This is like they introduced like the ultimate system and then had to dial it back instead of making something not as good and then buffing it. But how are they supposed to know that harvest that wouldn't be good for the game, right? Without doing it.
I feel like harvest in its unnerfed state trivialized the vast majority of other crafting methods. I think that was the biggest issue with it. With the crafting method with harvest, I think a lot more people felt like they had more control over the progression of their character by making decisions themselves and crafting it themselves. Crafting Path of Exile, like, I'm very biased because of the way I play the game. I've been crafting for almost 9 years. Like, I started doing it very early, and I love it. It's exciting, and I think that people got to taste that, and then when it was stripped away, you have to suddenly go through 7 other or 6 other crafting methods that are very complex and advanced to learn, whereas Harvest was very easy to understand. And
that's interesting.
Because like I mentioned before, this crafting series I think it's important because once you understand the limitations and restrictions on crafting, then you will play the game in a whole different way. I have this discussion with one of my community manager, Roots, all the time. He always tells me that on the start that I play a different game than most other people do. And I understand that because it's like we generate thousands upon thousands of divines. We buy mirrors in the first few days and, you know, that kind of currency. It's similar to what like MP is doing with this group. Like they pump so much currency. They are playing the game and I'm playing the game and many others are playing the game. I'm sure you do that as well because of your understanding of the game as well. Play the game in a very different way compared to most others. And I'm taking aside information or factors such as, you know, the amount of hours streamers puts into it. Granted, you're load shedding, you know, it kind of affects you.
I'm a normie with a job and electricity issues, so I've got like 2 divines on the end of the weekend. I'm pretty happy.
But when are you moving to your new house?
No, we're in it. We're in it now.
You're in it. Sorry, I missed that. Congratulations, by the way. I forgot to say that.
Thank you.
So I was under the impression that you were going to move, but you have moved into the new house. Okay, so you have.
Yeah. We've been living in here since April. But we've been like going through the process of buying it for the last, I don't know, year and a half or something.
All right. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
No, it's all good.
Nah, it's fun. We're trying to save our own house. It's fun for me. I love to poke your brain about a little bit after the stream someday.
For it. But you're talking about like streamers playing on a different level, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like when we play the game, it's because of the inherited information and knowledge, we do play the game differently. And that actually reminds me of another streamer who sucks at making minion builds, by the way. He's so bad at it, and everything he says is completely wrong. It's Balor Mage, by the way. We always have a little banter between. Actually, sorry, I have to point out, since people can't take a joke at all times, me and Balor, we're good friends. Just want to point that out. There's no problems between us. Just because we both have had people think that we are in a beef with one another. We're not. Each other. We're friends, okay? No, but jokes aside, he had a YouTube series called Working Class Exile, I believe it was.
I remember.
Right?
Yes.
And he played very few amount of hours a day. I think it was 1 or 2 hours a day.
I think it was like 30 minutes or 1 hour.
It was crazy. It was like, I think it was an hour, right? A day. And, you know, he beat the endgame content. He did all of that shit. He got good gear and everything. And everyone can do that. Yes, most people won't, because that will require some basic knowledge and information before, you know, diving into that. But I think that Path of Exile is such a complex game that if you would like to play the game in a different level, you don't have to play that many hours. Balor Mage made a pretty clear display of that. But what is required is the information. So you have to be willing to soak the information that is available all over the place, for that matter. I mean, even the crafting series I have, I know you mentioned Subtractum earlier. He has an insanely good crafting video for that matter.
Yes, yeah.
I am doing something similar, but in a minor video segments. So instead of having one big, I have several small ones, and I'm complementing them with written versions that I will be keeping updated at all times.
Oh, good, yeah.
So, you know, when a video gets outdated, I spoke to Subtractum about that last week or 2 weeks ago, some time ago. And, you know, when something gets outdated, it's really hard to remake that entire video. But in my case, I'll be doing the with written guides, which will be updated. But to stop going off tangents here, what I'm trying to say is that if you're willing to take the time to learn and read up on these things, once you have the knowledge, that knowledge can't be taken away from you. And if you have an understanding of, say, let's say essence crafting, which is very basic, if you fully understand how essence crafting works, and GGG makes a change to essence crafting, it's very easy to adjust that information you already know about the craft and, you know, adapt that new change to it. And you can never get away from that. And understanding crafting in Path of Exile allows you to play the game in a very different way. Anything from upgrading your character to making profits and all of those things as well, which will allow you to have, like Balo made a YouTube series with, you know, playing 1 hour a day and generating, you know, a high-end character that can beat the entire game, if you will. But you work part-time or stream as a side hustle, as you said.
Yeah.
What's your like goals when you're playing? Like, do you go for high-end bosses, or how do you play like as a part-time gamer in that sense, if you will?
I kind of. That's interesting. I guess I don't really have a goal like the same way streamers do, right? Well, I say like streamers. I guess I do. So maybe the reason I don't see myself as like a streamer is that I'm not a full-time. Like when it comes to League start, like the League start cycle with content creation, holy shit, it is like impossible to keep up. I like trying to like digest the information, trying to do a video, trying to work on League started guides and stuff, and then like while I'm trying to do this and I'm like editing podcasts, like Zizran's already got 17 videos out on like the best League starter, and I'm just sitting there. I don't have time to plan goals or to, I mean, not quite, but generally my goal is like, I'm gonna make a fun League starter build. I want to do my Atlas and kill the bosses, and then I'll see what happens. But you know, but when it comes to like making mirrors, it's gonna take me a while.
Yeah, but I mean, it's always different in the way you approach it. Ultimately, when it comes to games, I think a lot of people, especially in the PoE category, from my perspective, again, I might be wrong, but just the way I perceive things, is a lot of people forget that it's a fucking game. Have fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I do. I guess, yeah, so Shiro in chat just made a good point. Like, I guess my initial goal is make enough currency to start putting out little crafting videos here and there. So,
but you have a crafting series that I consumed not long ago, from 2 years ago, I believe.
Oh, really? Did you look at it?
Of course.
Oh, good. Did you enjoy it?
I hated it.
This was...
No, I'm just kidding. No, it was good. It was definitely good. No, it was good. It was really good, from my perspective. But it's like it's really hard when it comes to like with time allocation would be the best way to do it, especially as a content creator and when you're doing it part-time, right? Because there's always so much, like you mentioned, like just has a ton of the videos coming out. Yeah, Scrio, the editor, he's nibbling on my editor as well. Kikis, I saw you in chat earlier.
Uh-oh.
No, but jokes aside, I think that you know, it's always different when you compare, like when you're doing it part-time versus full-time and whatnot, and quantity is always one thing. There was this huge meta that went on for many years that as soon as patch notes came out, everyone was going to make top 5, top 10 League starter, tier list this, tier list that. You know, it was all over the place.
Just like spamming content, yeah.
Yeah, because it generated clicks, right? And I don't know.
Exactly.
I like the way...
I remember watching that and being like a bit... like, the live stream just happened and people are on their streams recording videos like, hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the new changes to like jewels, and they haven't... Oh, is it? Okay. Like, you haven't had time to process this. Like, you just make the video. All right, cool. Thumbnail. I watched so many people do that. And I was like, I can't keep up. Like,
but the best part is the people making the League starter videos before the patch notes. That's the new meta. Not that many do it, but
I think I might do that this time. No, not really. But I do have a build that I think is going to be a very, very good League starter, and I tested in SSF. I managed to do Maven Deathless with 200 herky jerky ping. So
You play in
it
200
does
ping,
well.
but don't you guys have a South African server nowadays?
Yeah, we do. It's just like the ping was like fucked up
Oh,
for some reason, and I still
okay.
managed to do my little Maven on my SSF.
Yeah, that's
It's
nice. That's nice.
Ice Trap Occultist. Felt pretty good.
That's
It's a
fair.
very fun little build. Yeah.
I know a lot of people
So
are like talking about. Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, go
Like
ahead.
a lot of people they expect us to need tons of currency to beat endgame bosses, but you really don't. It's mostly about understanding the fight and the mechanics.
Exactly.
You know how to move. You can do it on such a low budget. Yeah, the fight's gonna take fucking forever, but you can do it if you understand it. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
I actually spent some time today. I did that today, like Uber Elder. I don't know why. I struggle with that fight. Like I can do Maven so easily on like a janky shit build, but I can go into Uber Elder with like a really good build and 6 portal it. So today I just did like.
But were we talking with
50...
Maven witnessing it, or?
Yeah. Oh well, when I turn Maven off, it's all right.
Yeah.
When Maven's on, then it's quite hard. But.
Yeah.
There's just too much shit happening. There's like 4 shapers and like Elder, and
that's the problem, right? When shaper gets duplicated. Yeah. Try that in Uber version, and it's oh god, it's a shit show.
It's too. I don't think I could do it. But yeah, you're right. It is about knowledge, practice. Just like if you're able to afford it, just like do 50 Mavens. I know that's like 50 divines, but that's how you get good at it.
But that's what standard league's for as well, right?
Exactly. At least I always like when people are like, I don't play standard, take all my currency. I'm like, thank you. Are you sure? Like having currency in standard's really good when you start testing builds because you will burn through like hundreds of divines.
The market's crazy back then as well.
Yeah. So yeah, don't give me all your stuff. Well, I won't say no, but just remember standard has its uses.
No, for sure.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah, league start or just like content creation and trying to keep up with you guys because you're talking about you have like these strategies where you're playing on a different level. You're getting mirrors within days, whereas I think I'm more. Look, I know I could do it if I had the time, right? That's what I'm going to tell myself.
No, but you can. It's all about the knowledge, right? And then after that,
it's about the knowledge, right?
But it's also time investment. Like a quick TLDR on how this league, I don't want to talk too much about it because I did not pull my weight this time at all because of my mental health situation I had before the league started. So most of my wealth this league is entirely credited to one of our team members, Freck. I saw me chat earlier. Thank you. Basically what we do is that we have the time frame of your items being up for sale is very important if you're gonna make stupid money with profit crafting. So I mentioned Ritual League, I sold over 400 wands. All of those wands was never not available online for trade. So essentially when I logged out, someone else in my team was online and took the entire arsenal that I had for sale into his stash, put them up with the prices, and when I logged in, that was his time to go to bed, and I took everything over to my stash, and it was up for sale, and I could not log out till he was back to take it all over again. So 24/7 items for sale. Like there's small things like that. That's what you can do in party play when you're trying to do these stupid pushes. But it was kind of a race as well with the mirror items. It's a very different way of playing at that point, but that's how we achieved it. But it's doable with the knowledge.
Work. Yeah. I think some people do leave that out. There is a ton of knowledge, don't get me wrong, but time is a big factor, and a lot of people do forget that when they describe like strategies. But you're right, it is. You can, like, an experienced player with a ton of knowledge can generate 100 times more currency than an inexperienced player with 10 playing half as much almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. But again, it comes down to the interest and the will to consume the available knowledge that is available either on forums, written guides, YouTube guides. I mean, you uploaded a ward boot crafting guide recently, 2 days ago, yesterday or something.
Yeah. I mean, my videos I don't really think of as guides. I don't say like, in this step we're gonna do this and then we're gonna do this. It's just like, hey, I'm doing this. This is the kind of shit I would just do anyway, right? Just if I were offline, and I'm just like, I'm gonna record it. So I I normally do have like a process that perhaps you could follow as a guide, but sometimes I'm doing a craft and I'm like, I don't really know if this is the right thing. Like, what? Maybe this is wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And I feel like that's maybe another thing to talk about with PoE content creators is like the standard that they're held to. Like, you're meant to be this omniscient, you know, all-knowing. You have to know everything, and if you screw up, then like you're a noob. Like, why are you even making videos, man? Like, someone in the comments will be like, you should have done this instead of this. And like, I'm trying to break away from that, where I will, in my crafting videos, it's just the fact that you said ward boot guide. Like, the word guide implies something different. If that
Okay.
makes sense. Does this make
I feel
sense?
you.
I want my videos to be like, sometimes I will do a guide where I'm like, this is how you run blighted maps. Do this, do this, do this, do this, and then it'll work. But with crafting, I want to have a more like down to earth level where if I fuck up, tell me, like, tell me what I did wrong. Or if I don't know, I'm like, tell me what I did wrong in this step. Is there a better way to do this? Do it.
But that's the
But
will to
anyway,
learn, right? What I was going to say
yes,
was like
yeah.
once you learn something from a guide, may it be from a content creator or if you learn it yourself through trial and error, it doesn't matter. Craft of Excel is great for this, for example, to not waste in-game currency.
Yes.
What's really good with this that a lot of people seem to forget is the crafting guide for X item for 3 leagues ago. If there's no changes to that now, that crafting guide will still work. And you know, if a build is popular now, uses that item that was a guide for 3 leagues ago, you can utilize that information and craft it now as well. And that comes down to the situation of the will to invest time. But the problem is, like I mentioned earlier, is that people seem to forget that it's a game. And the way a lot of us content creators, like myself, we talk about the will and interest to devote and invest time to learn. People don't want to do it. People just want to boot up the game. You know, they have a partner, they have kids, they have work, they come home, they boot up the game, play an hour or two before they go to bed. They do the same thing the rest of the week, and on the weekend, maybe Friday, they have a couple more hours to play. They don't want to spend those hours that they're playing reading a guide or watching. Like, they don't want to do that. I understand that. I jokingly say that then they can go play Diablo, but you know, but
it's true.
Yeah, but like, all jokes aside, we're all different players in the end, right?
Yes, yeah. But I mean, I wish people would just have like fun playing the game, like you said. But there's so much pressure of people. So many players feel so much pressure to be like, I must be playing optimally all the time. Like, if I'm not making the most currency per hour, I'm not having fun. Or it's like sits in the back of their head. I bet you there's a ton of people who play this game that don't watch YouTube videos, don't do anything. They've got like shit characters. They can't make it into yellow maps, and they're probably having the most fun out of anyone.
Probably
just playing like some janky build. They don't even know what POB is. And it's like, I'm playing my, I don't know, Shockwave Ancestor Totem build, and it's so good. I wish more people could do that, right?
After 9 years.
Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
After 9 years, I always feel so like I'm so jealous of new players coming in because I know how much fun I had learning those things. But I'm also the kind of player that likes to learn these things to optimize the way I play. I set up a goal. I want to do that. How do I do that the most effectively? And now that I can do that, now I'm thinking, how do I do that whilst I'm having the most fun at the same time? Right? But you know, we're all different players. Some people, they want to play the meta, and then they will play the meta, and they will do that. That's their fun, being effective and efficient in the way they play. Torchlight is a great example of that, being the most recent ARPG genre game that I've been on. A topic in the industry where a lot of people play the meta. I stuck to playing the Minion build, which was really fun, but it was nowhere near as fast as the meta. Holy shit. Once I saw that, I was like so disappointed. I thought I was fast. Like, Jesus Christ, it was a fraction of the speed those meta builds were doing. But again, I was just having fun. So it's like you mentioned, like, there's definitely a lot of people in PoE that are playing shit builds or less effective, but in the end, as long as they're having fun, that's what matters, right? And we content creators can provide as much content and information and knowledge as we can. And if people are willing to invest their time into learning it, fine. Like I said this from the start with the crafting series I'm doing. I know that crafting videos are going to generate shit views on YouTube. It's probably a complete waste of time for me to even do it. But I also feel like the way I started with a stream being to help people get better at this game, I wouldn't stay true to that if I didn't do this series. So I'm doing it knowing that it will be a fucking waste of time for me to do and keeping those updated in the written version. But I also firmly believe that the people that are willing and are interested in devoting their time to invest that into the learning these things will have very good use of it, even if it's not that many people. And that's why I'm doing it, because that's
good.
part of why I'm enjoying what I do. But again, it's just
true.
Subjective in the end.
And PoE, the PoE community is so appreciative of stuff like that. If someone finds your series and they really enjoy it, they'll probably let you know about it, right? And that's a really good feeling. If someone's like, man, I watched your series. This is like making crafting understandable. I've never understood crafting before. And like I'm on this, I had that with my Crafting for Noobs series, which is about 2 years old. I'm also I didn't update it because like it's just gonna go out of date again. But getting those comments, so someone's like, I'm on episode 3 now, and this is so cool. Like I understand it. That makes it worth it, right?
Absolutely. But that's also kind of like odd. Like we talked about that before. Like I've been streaming for so long now, and you talked about this idea with like not really identifying yourself as similar to many other streamers. And I feel like even after this many years, to be in the similar boat.
Really? Okay.
People that are praising it and all those idolizing streamers. I just feel like streamers are getting way too much credit, because in the end, I've always said this, like I'm just a gamer like everyone else. I just happened to have a stream on because it was easier for me to respond to questions verbally, and the community made me able to do this as a career, which is crazy to me, and I'm forever grateful. But I still consider myself a gamer like everyone else, and that I don't want to say humbleness, but keeping my feet on the ground kind of approach, because I think that in the end, we're playing games to have fun. And if we're not having fun, why are we doing it? Like, we got to remember that part, even if, as a full-time streamer, there's definitely choices being made for the sake of, getting the bills paid. But I still think it's, games are meant to be fun to play. And if you're not having fun, literally play something else. A lot of people were like, oh, I don't enjoy PoE back in 3.15, for example. I can't help you. Don't force yourself. Play something else. Come back next week and pray they changed it. I mean, it's a game.
Exactly, right?
It's not the end of the world.
Just be grateful that this isn't your job, right? That's what I think. Like every time, if a league's bad, it does suck. It hurts. It would be wonderful if the league was good. I also want it to be good, but you can go like play League of Legends for 3 months and come back to a different game, hopefully. Whereas if you are full-time streaming, that's something that scares the hell out of me again about going full-time. It's like, if I were full-time during Lake of Kalandra, would I just not earn money for 2 months because I can't bring myself to play the last 2 months of this league? That was just how I felt personally about the league. Like I burnt out pretty quickly. What? Help. Like, what would you do?
I see what you mean. I mean, that's definitely a way to do it. And it's like I mentioned, like over my 9 years, I've felt that the only time I've really felt like this has been a job was 3.15. Last 2 months of 3.15, it was I didn't like I always feel better being live, hanging out with the community, so that's part of the enjoyment. But making the content during that league in the last 2 months was not fun. It was rough, and it was more like, okay, what can we do? And it was just business stuff. Okay, what can I do that will do something, because this is not enjoyable. Let's try to find a way to make it enjoyable. And you're in this situation where you're forcing yourself to do something to create enjoyment, and the enjoyment you're getting is not provided by the game. It's what you make out of it. So I guess that's definitely a situation that streamers in full-time would get into, that are locked into one game, where I think that streamers that have the possibility to stream other games without crashing and burning have a better privileged situation, if you will, which obviously comes with size and whatnot. I definitely agree with that, but it's like, it all depends as well. I mean, last league, there was a lot of stuff with the minions, and my channel was sitting on rather good numbers from league launch in terms of CCV and stuff like that, and that was great. And I had a lot of fun as well. It was more important, but like the numbers were really good. And then the 320, taking my mental health aside, before I took my break right after Christmas, the like my peak numbers during league launch was way worse than they've ever been in league launch for quite a few leagues now. As an example, I mean, definitely that's something as a full-time streamer you definitely think about. But like I've made the decision to never look at my viewer count and stuff like that when I'm streaming. I see that in the analytics after the stream. I don't want to see it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want anything to do with it.
It does play with your head, right?
There's too much pressure and thinking about such a stupid trivialized number. Like
exactly, it's like a number, right? And then like, you'll see the number go down, and you'll be like, shit, like did I say something wrong? Or like, I mean, I'm trying to, that doesn't really bug me as much as when I started, but you still, like, if you see the number drop by like 30, you're like, fuck, what did I do? Like, am I being boring? Am I not talking enough? Did I say something that annoyed someone? Or there's things that like go through your head in like instance. It's not like a fully thought out process, but yeah, I think turning off that number is probably a really good idea.
Yeah, no, it's definitely helped me at least, because like I just do what I do and focus on my stuff and I have fun, and then I can complain about the numbers afterwards. You know? But you know, it's I think that's the only transition that I found very odd when I went full time with the stream. Obviously the scary part, you know, is obviously the financial aspect of going to full time streaming, since your income is based around your CCV, and then the rest comes from the generosity and support of the community. And I've been very happy to have the community that I have that's making me able to do what I do, and are continuing to do so. You heard me, guys? Twitch Prime, by the way. So but you know, that aside, I think that it's rather interesting to look at it from an industry perspective, I guess, because it's like this job, if you will, is, I know Sis put it pretty well, and I've been saying it in a different way, but he put it in a really good way. He said, this is the easiest job in the entire world, but it's also the job that you have to work on the absolute most. And I think that's the best way to describe being a full-time streamer, because it's being live is the easy part. It's the stuff outside of streaming that's the hard part. At least for me, with my written guides are consuming so much time, and I'm so happy with the team that I have that's alleviating a lot of that. But I mean, like I mentioned before, I know MB, for example, like editing everything, moderating his channel, editing, recording, everything is done by himself, and it's just crazy with the amount of stuff that he's doing. And it's just crazy with the time invested. So being live is easy. It's everything else that I think is time consuming.
Streaming really is the easy part, right? Like then you're just playing and chatting and all of that.
Yeah.
How do you think? I guess, what's the time? How about this? All right, let's close it up. I'm gonna pretend that this is my podcast for a second. How do you think PoE 2 is gonna change not only Path of Exile, but the community and streaming for you and content creation for you?
With PoE 2?
Yeah, with PoE 2, do you think there's going to be like a massive explosion? The community is going to change and be different? Is it going to be positive or negative?
I think we've already reached a state of Path of Exile community, have grown to the point where GGG are already making changes inside the structure inside to be more corporate, if you will. Especially with the community team being the poster of information rather than a person is one thing. Another thing that I think will happen community-wise, I don't think it's going to change much, because you already have that. It's a mob on Reddit basically, and that's not going to change. It's just going to be bigger. Content creation, like Path of Exile always have had pretty extreme growth spurts throughout the last 8-9 years. They've been sequences where their marketing and how much exposure and attention it's getting from on social media, and also other streamers coming in, bigger streamers that doesn't normally play PoE comes in, and new players come in for that as well. But Chris Wilson has also stated that when they hit peak new numbers of players and whatnot, and with new releases, it's normally not new players, it's just more returning players. And with their marketing strategy for PoE 2, they're in a situation where they're calling it PoE 2, which is in fact not really another game. It's the same game with a different campaign available, so you can play both campaigns, but it's the same game in the end after the campaign's over. It's just PoE 4, 4.0. But they're promoting it as PoE 2 because Chris made a statement that he talked to someone who played Path of Exile in the early years, and who
Yes,
never
yeah.
came back because of the desync issues and the lag, which is all of that's already been taken care of a long time ago. But they're not coming back because that's their perception of the game. But when they say, "Hey, this is PoE2," those people would be more inclined to, "Hey, let's try out Path of Exile 2. Maybe they fix those things," and it will also be marketed as a brand new game, which will ring very well in the industry, in my opinion, marketing wise. So I definitely think that we're gonna get very likely an insane growth spurt in the Pathfinder community on all fronts. Players as well as streams will be directly affected by this. So I'm very excited as a full-time streamer for that to happen, obviously. But there's a lot of changes. I'm very excited for it. But community-wise, I don't think it's going to change that much more than...
You don't think? Just going to be bigger, hopefully.
That's what I think, yeah. Do you have a different
think?
opinion?
No, that sounds about right. The one thing maybe I'd slightly disagree on, everyone is saying just PoE. PoE2 is going to be the same game. I think, I mean, them doing something as drastic as changing the sockets, I know that's not like a different game, right? But
Yeah.
it does lead me to feel like we might see some stuff at ExileCon that maybe makes us rethink that slightly. Because I know what you mean. Like, it's not, you're not going to boot up a different client, right? For PoE2, maybe. I don't know. You're going to be able to do this campaign or that campaign, and then the end game is going to be the same thing. But there might be so much stuff that's changed on the same level of the socket changes that maybe it will feel like a different game. That's maybe copium, but I'm hoping, right? Does that make sense at all?
I definitely think that it will feel like a different game for sure, but you also have
It'll
to keep
feel
in mind that these changes for PoE2 will also affect PoE1, right?
PoE1.
So
Yeah.
it's similar to just
Okay.
so like it's not going to be that you can stick with the sockets and links that you have right now. Like that's going to be a game changer all across the board. It's just that you have now other classes and other things happening in a new campaign you can choose to play, to my understanding.
Okay.
Right?
All right. I was just misunderstanding the way you're what you meant by it. Okay. That makes sense. Yes.
Well, it
So
will definitely feel like a different game for sure. I mean, it's going to be extensive.
So. And the graphics.
Yeah, I mean, graphic changes, the boss changes, the HP bars and stuff like that, UI changes, like all of those things will obviously make everything feel like a brand new game, which is going to be exciting no matter if you want to play the PoE1 campaign or whatever you want to choose to do, right? So that will still be the thing, but it will definitely feel like a different game for sure. But it's just that it's just baseline mechanical changes, sockets as another example. That's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to balance minions around that.
Oh, yeah. Having like 8 6 links? Really? We're going to have to see. Ooh. Everything's getting nerfed, everyone. Sorry. Just like damage, everything cut in half.
Yeah.
I don't know how the hell
maybe they'll have like a hard cap on the amount of minions you can have or something.
Or like certain skills will have link caps or something like that. Maybe like you can only have 4 links on your shield charge or something weird. I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll see.
It's gonna be fun. I actually pitched the idea to Bex a couple months ago regarding ExileCon when I was confirmed to go there. I told her that I would like to have a panel where I interview the appropriate dev or devs regarding minions for PoE2. I really hope they can make that happen because there's a lot of questions.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of questions.
Why did you kill Bob?
Yeah, that too. Well, especially with minion cap and the link system and whatnot, and there's aura stackings and minions are probably the 2 major ones that I think that a lot of people want to have answers to. So it would be fun to talk to, like have a panel at ExileCon for that. So let's see if they can make that happen. I've already pitched it to them, so we'll see.
That'll be awesome. I'm so excited for it. Even though, I mean, obviously can't be there in person. I'm so excited.
No, absolutely. I really hope they make more, but like I said, I don't think they'll, because of them selling out the tickets, I really doubt they will ever move it away from Oakland, which makes sense from their perspective.
No, I think it's so awesome that there is this game that is so big and so popular that rivals, Blizzard. Well, maybe not financially, but in terms of popularity, rivals Diablo 3 and has since overcome it from a little country, New Zealand, off in the the bottom corner of the world. And I love that they do ExileCon there. I think it's great that they do it there. Like don't go over to the United States and do it, BlizzCon style. Do it your own way. It's cool. I like it.
Yeah, it's really cool how the journey grinding gear games have been on, and everyone's been like, you played it even before I did 10 years ago, and see the progression of it. I think that every kind of game that boots up, they start off in the basement of someone's house, and they strive to have this type of progression where they start that off, and 10 years later they're this multi-million dollar, not an indie company anymore.
No, but it's like a rock band almost. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like starting off in the garage, just playing with your friends, and they created this thing that is like the biggest ARPG. Well, I don't know that I play, so therefore it is.
That's fair. What's your predictions for 322 then? Since that's going to come right after ExileCon, so I'm sure we're going to be seeing some information on that on the event, obviously. But any predictions or maybe hopes?
Cluster jewels for the Atlas tree. I'll just put that there. That's my prediction.
Cluster jewel, okay. Yeah. I was hoping they would at some point try to get rid of some of the bloat. You just want to add more.
Just more.
Okay.
Just more. You're gonna find like keystones. Nah, I don't know, but I feel like it'll be something crazy. We need something. Well, it's not like we need something, but you know what I mean. Like when at the previous ExileCon, there was just like the PoE2 announcement was huge. And like the end of league expansions are always so huge, like Atlas Tree or Conquerors, all of that stuff. I hope that 3.22 is going to have something game changing, like globally game changing. I don't know actually. I'm kind of memeing about cluster jewels for the Atlas Tree, but maybe.
But didn't they talk about this idea that they were going to have like extensive changes one league and then very minor the second league and then extensive changes again? And we had extensive changes for this. Wouldn't that mean that we'd have rather minor for April launch, and then 322 would be the big one after ExileCon, which would be lining up pretty perfectly if they keep that approach, if you will, right?
Could be something big. Do you have any predictions?
No. I feel like every time I start with predictions and stuff like that when it comes to these things, I feel like I'm hyping myself up for something and then I don't get it. But I don't think that I can't say that I'm getting disappointed, because we have come to the conclusion that, or the state rather, that no matter what we get from GGG, we are always holding them very high on the expectation front of what's being delivered. And 95% of the times we're getting the release information, they succeed in blowing that out of the water. There's only been 2 leagues that has been disappointing, if you will, or did not meet the expectations, and that would be the Archnem and 315 from my perspective. But outside of that, like, it doesn't matter what you're expecting. Like, almost always you can be rest assured that you're gonna be excited, right?
Yeah.
But it will be fun to see how they're going to develop this idea now with less changes, if they stick to that. Every second league would be extension changes. Every second league would be minor changes. So if that's the case, are we gonna have more time invested or pressure on the actual league mechanic? Is that what's gonna happen? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, because we've entered this new cycle, if you will, if they stick to that, which is what they said, right? So I think that 321 will set the tone, I guess, for how they plan on doing it. I think that's my expectation, to basically see the result of it, which, like I said, just sets the tone for future releases that we'll see.
Yeah, whatever it is going to be exciting.
No. What is the most played build you've done this league then?
This league? Yeah. Probably Venom Gyre. Played a lot of that. And then I started with Lightning Conduit, dead skill that got nerfed. It did great. It was actually really good. But I feel like now I'm going through my let's try to not suck at making builds phase. Or you know what? I can make a build that can like league sod and kill Maven or something, but there's something special about a lot of content creators, like you included, Palsteron and the hardcore folks, that there's just like, I don't know, there's like another layer of understanding where you can almost just like see a unique item and then just the gears start turning. You're just like, oh, we could do this and this and this and this and this, and then you test it and it works. Or, well, at least that's the way it looks. I know that there's probably hundreds of hours of testing behind it, but I'm trying to learn a bit. So that's where I came up with my little ice trap cultist, and it did great. I was very proud of myself.
I mean, it's just trial and error in the end.
Yeah,
that's all there is. And coming up with a new build is really hard right now. Really hard.
Super hard. Yeah.
I mean, just take Minions as an example, which is where most of my time is invested. Not all, but most. Nowadays, most mini builds have a generic tree. And then the variations between different guides or creators' approach to it is just the side nodes that you're putting on. And, you know, you either go spell suppression on the right side, or you go block on the left side. You can go all the way down to the jugger, or you don't. But there are still certain minion nodes that you always take, like the spiritual aid clusters on the far left side. You go there. If you don't, I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but you go there. And if you're playing a temporarily summoned minion with a duration, you go on Enduring Bond. Now you already have two sections of the tree, which are both located on the top left sector on the skill tree, and you're locked into this. And then wherever you put the points after that is, you know, depending on your touch to the build, basically. I don't like that because it feels like build guide creativity is so limited because of that. Which is why I was so excited with the mastery introduction. They said they would take away the interesting modifiers and notables and put them on mastery, so people wouldn't have that necessity. And then they took away all the interesting notables and implemented half of them as half-ass versions, and still forced us to go there. So, you know, I'm not too happy with that result. I got some complaints there, but the idea at least was good. But I think that's it. All comes down to trial and error in general, and that's again where Standard League becomes a really good place to play in the sandbox.
Exactly, and where chat becomes really useful. Something that's awesome. I feel like I've learned way more about this game from the community since making videos than I've taught myself, if that makes sense. Like, you learn things in YouTube comments, you learn things from chat where someone will be like, why aren't you using this item? And you'll be, I don't know, let me check it out. And it's great. So yeah, trial and error, smarter people, better things, and yeah.
But you made this trapper build, the occultist. What is your favorite build? Since you played longer than I have. Like, you've been here for so long. Like, what's your favorite build throughout the years that you've ever played?
Probably the most satisfying is Bleed Bow Gladiator. Just the pops, and maybe it's just the memories of those explosions. But you know, okay, so I have been playing for ages, but something you must realize is I had a dog shit computer up until late 2017. Up until that point, I think I made it to red maps only a couple of times, because once I got to red maps, I'm not joking, I would have like 30 FPS in the campaign. When I got to red maps, it was like 10. Like 10 FPS with 200 ping. I would give up, man. Like, it was too hard.
I get that.
So I've been playing that long, but like, I've only really been playing for 5.5, 6 years.
All right. The Bleed Bow Glad.
Yeah, if people hating me for that? What's
No, it's just me. Just me. I don't like bow builds, but that's the only. Like, if I do a Magic Find build, I don't go Wind Ripper. Like, I go with a KB Wonder just because I don't want to play bows.
I'm secretly a minion build hater. Necro in D2, fucking worst class.
Well, it's only good till when you get Enigma, so yeah, I definitely feel you. Can't do shit without it. It looks cool though. Got me.
No, minions, I'll say, like, when I first tried minions in PoE, I was like, this is actually really cool. It's like way more involved than D2. Like, D2 is just like summon and then let them kill stuff. The PoE 2, you're like pushing buttons and using offerings, and it's cool.
It's definitely the most active gameplay. People say that you play minions to be lazy, but it's not until like you start investing to the build, that's when you start getting, yo, I want to fucking automate this trigger on the offering because I can't stand casting it all the time. Come on. And even then after that, you're still like using abilities depending on your situation. Like, I'm gonna curse, I'm gonna use convocation, and I like that because it adds another way of playing the game. And my other problem was like when I did a Headhunter Magic Find KV Wonder, I had to have two different fucking keybinds for Kinetic Blast. I had one for right click and one on my keyboard because like holding down right click, it hurt my wrists.
Yep.
Like I literally had to do this. All I did was mobility skill, hold down right click. Mobility skill, hold down whatever other keyboard instead to alleviate pressure on my wrists. And that's all I did. But if I play Minion build, it's mobility, it's convocation, it's cursing. It's, depending on the situation, I felt like I'm actually playing the game. It's not like a loot pinata.
Yeah.
So that's why I like.
It's funny because like Minions it's the opposite of what you'd expect, right?
Yeah.
Like with D2, it's just click and run. But PoE, it's nice. It's involved. I've had to bind my main skill to spacebar. Otherwise, doing like this back forth. Like my hands are fucked after like 4 days of league start. I can't keep doing it.
No, I definitely agree with that. But I mean, again, it's subjective. Some people want to play the meta, they want to be effective, and that's part of the enjoyment. I want to play the game and enjoy my time playing. It's like I always tell people that are new to the game and they ask what build they should play. I'm like, look at the gameplay footage of the build, and if it looks like something you think you'd have fun with, go for it. Just have fun.
Go for it. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the best in the world, but it doesn't have to be the meta. But then again, there's the other side of that spectrum where people they have fun by playing the fast thing.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Their build is merely a means to an end.
Yeah.
Whereas for some people, the build is the fun. For some people, having the currency to do the thing they want, that's the fun part.
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty. It's getting a bit late for me, Ghazzy.
Yeah, no, we kind of hit the mark on that.
I feel like we did good.
Yeah, we usually end up around 2 hours. That's pretty much what we hit, right? I don't have any script for ending this podcast, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this coffee talk. There was a lot of talk about non-PoE stuff, streamer stuff, and PoE stuff. There is no structure to this podcast. They happen sporadically, and when they do, I post them on the Discord and Twitter. We'll be uploading this on YouTube for those of you tuned in during this little podcast. Local is the guest for this one. Thank you so much for joining. How about you do not a small one? Give us a proper, completely shameless, big-ass self-promo. Where can we find you? What are you up to? Yada, yada. Just give me the full rundown.
You want my address? I can give it to you.
That too as well, yes, please.
Okay. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/localhole. I'm on Twitter at localhole. You can check out my SoundCloud. I have a SoundCloud with all my PoE songs. It's also localhole. You can find it there too. I think, what else? I don't have an Instagram or an OnlyFans yet. I'm working on it, trying to get the body fixed up so that it's worth sharing. But other than that, I think just YouTube, Discord, Twitter. Check it out.
Perfect. Any projects happening in the coming days, weeks? You're playing the Gauntlet, for example?
Yeah. Well, how do we not talk about the Gauntlet?
I don't know.
We'll have to leave it. I'm actually really excited for it. I haven't practiced. I'm going full raw dog, just straight in. I've got to build. Well, it's just like one of Zizarin's EA totem builds. So, but I'm just gonna go in. You're doing it as well?
Yep. I'm going DS Lilies BBBF. I haven't played that in a year or something,
nice.
So kind of revisit it. All right.
Okay, that's gonna be fun.
So that's where you can find Local. Thanks again for joining, man. Appreciate that. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below. If you like this podcast, it happens every now and then. And hit the like button, subscribe, all that shit. If you have Twitch Prime, come to twitch.tv/local and give them a Twitch Prime sub. And I'll see you guys in the Gauntlet. And good luck on their Gauntlet tomorrow. To you, Local, as well. All right. Good night, everybody.